Hello students, welcome back to another learning video. Now in today's session, I'm going to solve a passage-based question from previous year MA English entrance question paper. I've previously solved a lot of other passage-based questions from previous year MA English entrance question papers. Maybe you can try going through these videos that will help you understand such kind of questions on how to go about solving passage-based questions, because this type set, that is your passage-based questions, happens to be one of the most important type set in an English entrance examination, because we've been seeing such kind of questions from 2019. And if you know how to solve such questions, nobody can stop you from gaining marks. If you know it, you know it. That's how it works. Okay, so in today's video, like I said, I'm going to take a question from previous year question paper. Let's see if we are able to get through it. Let's follow it line by line together. All right, now let's read the comprehension together. Let's see what it reads. On the basis of your reading of the following excerpt, answer the questions that follow. On the rack in the railway carriage, immediately opposite Clovis, was a solidly wrought travelling bag with a carefully written label on which was inscribed, J.P. Huddle, the warranty field near Slowborough. Immediately below the rack sat the human embodiment of the label, a solid, sedate individual, sedately dressed, sedately conversational. Even without his conversation, which was addressed to a friend seated by his side, and touched briefly on such topic as the backwardness of Roman hyacinths and the prevalence of measles at the rectory, one could have gauged fairly, accurately the temperament and mental outlook of the travelling bag's owner, but he seemed unwilling to leave anything to the imagination of a casual observer, and his talk grew presently personal and introspective. Let's look at the second paragraph now. It says, I don't know how it is, he told his friend. I'm not much over 40, but I seem to have settled down into a deep groove of elderly middle age. My sister shows the same tendency. We like everything to be exactly in its accustomed place. We like things to happen exactly at their appointed times. We like everything to be usual, orderly, punctual, methodical, to a hair's breadth in a minute. It distresses and upsets us if it is not so. For instance, to take a very trifling matter, a thrush has built its nest year after year in the cactus tree on the lawn. This year, for no obvious reason, it is building in the ivy on the garden wall. We've said very little about it, but I think we both feel that the change is unnecessary and just a little irritating. Now, as we move on, it says, Perhaps, said the friend, it's a different thrush. We suspected that, said J.P. Huddle, and I think it gave us even more cause for annoyance. We don't feel that we want a change of thrush at our time of life, and yet, as I've said, we've scarcely reached an age when these things should make themselves seriously felt. Now, on the basis of this passage, we have sub questions. We have 5 questions, so you can just take a look here. This is question number 2, and then this is 3, and then this is question number 4. This one is 5. So this is how it is going to look like basically in your examination. Now we go back to the passage, right? Because we can be solving questions without understanding what's inside the passage. So we'll try to understand the core of the very passage. So now this passage comes from a very absurd word combination text which is called Unrest Care by H.H. Munro. Now, apart from this, the other important thing that we end up noticing here is the kind of diction that's being used. We see the sentences, they're long, they're complex, is stylistic in the sense that the passage looks extremely expressive and vivid in nature. So basically, H.H. Munro was a British writer and a playwright who wrote several short stories that satirized upper class Edwardian society. Apart from this, his works initially appeared in newspapers and then got published as collected short stories. Now let's look at the passage. Here we have four characters. You meet four characters in this passage. Your first character is Clovis. Let's look at the first line. It says, "On the rack in the railway carriage, immediately opposite Clovis was a solidly wrought travelling bag with a carefully written label." Clovis is your first character here who overhears the conversation between two men on a train as you read it. Now here our second character is J.P. Huddle. As you can read on, I'm looking at the second line. Carefully written label on which was inscribed J.P. Huddle, who complains to his friend, who happens to be your third character here, the warrant to feel near Slowborough. Immediately below the rack said the human embodiment of the label, a solid, sedate individual, sedately dressed, sedately conversational, even without his conversation. So, conversation with whom? With his friend, which was addressed to a friend. So, your friend is your third character in this passage. And now finally, let's locate our last character, which happens to be our fourth character, who is J.P. Huddle's sister. Let's look at the second paragraph to locate her. "I don't know how it is," he told his friend. "I'm not much of a forte, but I seem to have settled down into a deep groove of elderly middle age. My sister shows the same tendency." So the sister of J.P. Huddle is your fourth character here. So it's very, very important to locate characters first if there is something of that sort. So what's happening in the first paragraph here? Let's look at the fifth line in brackets. Let's read on, which was addressed to a friend. He's complaining to his friend here, seated by his side and touched chiefly on such topic as the backwardness of Roman hyacinths. Hyacinth is a pleasant smelling plant around which a lot of small flowers grow, and the prevalence of measles, a disease. So frivolous things in life are discussed here. Now in the last line of the first paragraph, the writer explains this, and his talk grew presently personal and introspective. Now let's see what all things he wants to talk about. "I don't know how it is," he told his friend. "I'm not much over 40. He's trying to say that he's maybe little over 40, so that means not much over 40. "But he seemed to have settled down into a deep groove of elderly middle age." What does that mean? That his ways in life, they've become fixed, that he has adjusted in life the way it came to him, the way it is coming to him every single day. Now apart from this, we understand that Huddle and his sister, they both hate change. Look at these lines. "My sister shows the same tendency. We like everything to be exactly in its accustomed place. We like things to happen exactly at their appointed times." And then look at these lines. "It distresses and upset us if it is not so. For instance, to take a very trifling matter, a thrush has built its nest year after year in the catkin tree." So year after year, this bird has been building its tree here. And now for no obvious reason, it is building in the ivy on the garden wall. So this bird maybe, or this time maybe the bird is different, has changed its location, and that is distressing him. That is distressing his sister. So we've said very little about it, but I think we both feel that the change is unnecessary and just a little irritating. So he's annoyed by the change around him. And so with that we can conclude that Huddle hates change absolutely. So with that we can conclude that Huddle hates change absolutely. For him, change is maybe scary, it is dull, It is chaotic, it is unnecessary, annoying, and irritating, as he himself mentions. You can figure this out in these next set of lines yourself. As his friend says, "Perhaps," said the friend, "it is a different thrush." And then look at his reply. "We've suspected that," said JP Huddle. "Maybe even he thinks that this time the bird is different, and maybe that's why it has changed its location. And I think it gives us even more cause for annoyance. And so, because it's a change, he's annoyed. We don't feel that we want a change of thrush at our time of life. And yet, as I've said, we've scarcely reached an age when these things should make themselves seriously felt." Okay, now let's look at our questions. So we have our question number 1 here. On the basis of your reading of this excerpt, what do you think is the tone of this passage? Choose the correct option. 1. Melancholic, bitter, didactic, or humorous. It is absolutely not melancholic. Nowhere do we find that the character is sad. Bitter, it's not bitter at all. Didactic, it's not teaching us anything. Humorous, yes, it is humorous in nature. The way he says it all, the way he explains his ideas related to change and how he hates it, makes it all the more humorous. So option number 4 is the correct answer here. Now let's look at our question number 2. It says, on the basis of your understanding of the passage, choose the option that can or must closely replace the underlined words without changing their meanings. A sedate individual, sedately dressed, sedately conversational. We want to locate the line here. It's here. Third line, immediately below the rack, sat the human embodiment of the label, a solid sedate individual, sedately dressed, sedately conversational. Now, sedate basically means calm. Let's come back to our options. Let's look at option 4 first. Is stressed individual, comically dressed, erratically conversational? Doesn't fit. Stressed individual, nowhere do we find that he's stressed, so this is wrong. And then we have option number 3. A witty individual, maybe, yes, witty individual. Unsophisticatedly dressed? No. The writer already explains us that he's very nicely dressed. Then option 2, a biased individual, shabbily dressed. Doesn't fit. Option 1, a composed individual. Good. Impressively dressed, quietly conversational. Option 1 fits the best. There should be no confusion here at all. So option 1 is our correct answer here. Now that we know our character's nature, we should be able to answer this question very quickly. It says, fill in the blanks by choosing the correct option to complete the following sentence. JP Huddle, the warden, was a dash person, and the themes of his conversation were dash. Was a jovial person, option number 1. And the themes of his conversation were serious. Jovial, maybe yes, but serious, no. Was a secretive person, option number 2. Cross out, it's wrong. He was not a secretive person. Was a composed person, very much in sync with question 2's option. So we'll keep that up with us here. So option 3, maybe. Was a insolent person, not an insolent person, and the themes of his conversations were definitely not brilliant. Okay, they were frivolous. Okay, so we're cross-checking option number 3 here, that he was a composed person and the themes of his conversation were mainly frivolous in nature. This is what we discussed when we were looking at the passage or the paragraph summary in the beginning. Now we have question number 4. It says, according to the excerpt, JP Huddle's major cause for concern is, when we looked at the passage, we realized how insignificant things in life affect him so much. And the fact that they're coming to him at such an early age, which is a matter to him. Now we look at these options, a change of thrush occurring at his time of life, which is there, but as an instance, as an example. The absolute lack of orderliness, method, and punctuality in his life, which he hates. His sister manifesting the same tendencies as him, This is what he explained in second paragraph. Your option number 2 and option number 3 is coming from second paragraph, even a change of thrush. And option number 4, the typical characteristics of middle age unpleasantly intruding rather early on into his life. When he started talking about his problems, this is what he said in the beginning, which is the basis of everything that we are talking about here. Look at it. I don't know how it is. This is the second paragraph, first line. He told his friend, I'm not much over 40, but I seem to have settled down into a deep groove of elderly middle age. How I have become fixed about certain things in life, and that he's not able to change his views, he's not able to change his opinions, and that is a problem to him, and that's coming to him at such an age, so early in his life. Typical characteristics of middle age unpleasantly intruding rather early onto his life is the correct option here. We have our last question: match the expressions in list 1 with their meaning in list 2. To a hair's breadth, trifling matter, settled into a deep groove, and human embodiment. What do you think is the easiest one for you? You should try to figure that one out first so that you're able to locate your correct option as quickly as you can. If you look at human embodiment, this happens to be the easiest one here. What does it signify? Physical representation, which is your second one from list 2. So now if you locate the 4 options, you will see that the second option has D as 2, human embodiment, physical representation. And then we have to a hair's breadth, which is your option 3 from list 2, to a very small amount. Trifling matter, again this is also a very easy one. You should be able to locate this one from B as well, which is your option 4 from list 2, not an important incident. So option 3 from list 1 or C from list 1, settled into a deep groove, which is something we've been discussing for so long. Again, this one from list 2, the first option, to be fixed in a particular way. And human embodiment, as we discussed, is your option 2 from list 2, physical representation. So A3, B4, C1 and D2 option 2 is the correct answer.